The call comes just as I'm about to head out for my morning jog. Theo's voice on the other end of the line is calm, almost nonchalant, as if he's informing me about the weather. Lillian feels the empty nest at home. She's moving in next week. I nearly drop my phone. Excuse me, when was this decided? Last night. Mom's been struggling since Dad passed, and I think it's best if she's with family. And you didn't think to discuss this with me first? I can feel my blood pressure rising. Marin, she's my mother. Where else is she supposed to go? That's not the point, Theo. We're supposed to be a team. You can't just make unilateral decisions like this. Look, it's just for a little while until she gets back on her feet. It won't be that bad. But I know better. I've seen how Theo gets around his mother, how he transforms from the man I married into a docile little boy, eager to please. I take a deep breath, trying to quell the panic rising in my chest. Fine, we'll talk about this when I get home. Great. Love you. I don't respond, just end the call and stare at my phone. This isn't the first time Theo has made a major decision without me, but it's definitely the most egregious. I think back to our wedding day, how Lillian had insisted on controlling every detail, from the guest list to the color of the napkins. I had chalked it up to typical mother-of-the-groom behavior, but now I see it for what it was, a sign of things to come. I start my jog, my feet pounding against the pavement as my mind races. How am I supposed to deal with Lillian living under my roof? The woman who constantly criticizes my cooking, my decorating choices, my career. I think about the inheritance my grandmother left me, the money I had been saving for a down payment on a house of our own. With Lillian moving in, that dream feels further away than ever. By the time I get back home, I'm drenched in sweat and no closer to a solution. Theo is already at work, so I'm left to my own devices as I try to figure out how to accommodate our new house guest. I start by clearing out the guest room, boxing up the exercise equipment and craft supplies that have accumulated over the years. As I'm doing so, I come across a photo album from our wedding. I flip through the pages, my eyes landing on a picture of Theo and Lillian dancing together, identical smiles on their faces. It hits me then, the realization that I will always be an outsider in my own marriage, that Theo will always put his mother's needs before my own. I close the album and shove it back into the box, my jaw clenched tight. Something has to change. I can't keep living like this, constantly playing second fiddle to a woman who doesn't even like me. I finish clearing out the room and head to the kitchen to start on dinner. As I chop vegetables, my mind churns with the beginnings of a plan. I may not be able to stop Lillian from moving in, but I'll be damned if I let her take over my life. The memories of our wedding day flood back as I sit at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but even then, the cracks were starting to show. I remember Lillian's disapproving frown as she surveyed the reception hall, her eyes lingering on the simple centerpieces I had chosen. "Are you sure this is what you want, dear? It's a bit quaint." I had forced a smile, determined not to let her ruin my big day. "It's perfect, Lillian, just what Theo and I wanted." But even as I said the words, I could feel Theo's hand tighten on my arm, a silent warning to play nice. Looking back, I can see how Theo's charming facade had blinded me to his true nature. The way he would dismiss my opinions with a laugh and a pat on the head, as if I were a child. The way he would always defer to his mother's wishes, no matter how unreasonable. I take a sip of my coffee, the bitter taste matching my mood. I had thought marriage would be a partnership, but instead I find myself playing the role of a subordinate, constantly bowing to the whims of my husband and his mother. The sound of the front door opening jolts me out of my thoughts. Theo strides into the kitchen, his suit impeccably pressed and his hair perfectly coiffed. He looks every inch the successful investment broker, but I know the truth behind the polished exterior. "How was your day, honey?" he asks, his tone dripping with false sincerity. "Fine," I reply, my voice clipped. "Just trying to figure out where to put all of Lillian's things." Theo's smile falters for a moment before he recovers. "I'm sure we'll find a place for everything. Mom's not bringing that much." I bite back a scoff. I've seen the moving trucks parked outside Lillian's house, the endless stream of boxes and furniture being loaded up. And where exactly are we supposed to put it all, Theo? This house isn't big enough for 3 people and a lifetime's worth of possessions. Theo's eyes narrow, his voice taking on an edge. We'll make it work, Marin. Mom needs us right now. And what about what I need? I ask, my voice rising. What about our plans for the future, the house we were going to buy? Theo slams his hand down on the counter, making me jump. Damn it, Marin. Can't you think of anyone but yourself for once? My mother just lost her husband. She needs her family. I stare at him, stunned by the outburst. In all our years together, I've never seen Theo lose his temper like this. I am thinking of our family, Theo, but right now it feels like you're only thinking of yours. Theo takes a deep breath, his jaw clenched tight. I don't have time for this. I have to go pick up Mom. He grabs his keys off the counter and storms out of the house, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I sink back into my chair, my head in my hands. How did we get here? How did I let things get so out of control? But even as I ask myself the questions, I know the answer. I let Theo and Lillian steamroll over me, too afraid of rocking the boat to stand up for myself. Well, no more. I may not be able to stop Lillian from moving in, but I won't let her dictate my life. I won't let Theo treat me like a doormat any longer. I take a deep breath and stand up, my resolve hardening with each passing second. It's time to take back control of my life, one way or another. The next few days are a whirlwind of activity as I prepare for Lillian's arrival. I clean the house from top to bottom, rearrange furniture to make room for her belongings, and stock the fridge with all of her favorite foods. But no matter how much I do, it never seems to be enough. This room is awfully small, Lillian sniffs as I show her the guest room, and the decor is so bland. I bite my tongue, reminding myself that she's just lost her husband. I thought we could go shopping for some new bedding and curtains, make it feel more like home. Lillian waves a dismissive hand. I suppose that will have to do, for now. As the days go by, Lillian's presence in the house becomes increasingly suffocating. She criticizes everything from the way I load the dishwasher to the way I fold the towels. She rearranges my kitchen cabinets and moves my furniture without asking. But the final straw comes when I overhear her talking to Theo one evening. Really, Theodore, I don't know how you stand it, she says, her voice dripping with disdain. Living in this tiny house with a wife who can't even keep it properly decorated. I feel my blood boil as Theo's response floats down the hallway. I know, Mom, but what can I do? Marin is stubborn. You need to put your foot down, Lillian insists. Take control of the situation. You're the man of the house, after all. I can't listen to any more. I storm into the living room, my eyes blazing with anger. How dare you? I hiss at Lillian. This is my home, and you have no right to come in here and start making demands. Lillian looks at me with a smirk. Oh, please, this isn't a home. It's a shoebox, and you, my dear, are hardly qualified to be running it. I turn to Theo, expecting him to defend me, but he just stands there, his eyes fixed on the floor. Theo? I prompt, my voice shaking. Are you going to let her talk to me like that? Theo finally looks up, his expression unreadable. Marin, please, don't make this harder than it needs to be. I stare at him in disbelief. Harder than it needs to be? Your mother just insulted me in my own home, and you're taking her side? I'm not taking anyone's side, Theo argues. I just think we all need to calm down and find a way to make this work. I shake my head, hot tears stinging my eyes. I can't believe this. I can't believe you. I turn and flee the room, slamming the bedroom door behind me. I sink down onto the bed, my body shaking with sobs. How did I let things get this bad? How did I let Theo and Lillian walk all over me for so long? But even as I wallow in self-pity, a small voice in the back of my mind whispers that it's not too late, that I can still take back control of my life. I think of the inheritance my grandmother left me, the money I had been saving for our future. I think of how Theo had promised we would use it to buy a house of our own, start a family. But now, with Lillian living under our roof and Theo catering to her every whim, that future seems further away than ever. I wipe my eyes and take a deep breath, my resolve hardening. I won't let them take that away from me. I won't let them dictate how I live my life. I reach for my phone and dial a number I never thought I would need. Hello, I say when the receptionist answers. I need to speak with a lawyer. It's about my husband. The meeting with the lawyer is eye-opening, to say the least. I sit in his office, my hands clasped tightly in my lap as he looks over the documents I've brought with me. "It seems your husband has been less than forthcoming about his financial situation," the lawyer says, his brow furrowed. "Based on these bank statements, his investments are not nearly as lucrative as he's led you to believe." I feel a sinking sensation in the pit of my stomach. "What do you mean?" The lawyer sighs, leaning back in his chair. "Mrs. Bridges, I believe your husband has been using your inheritance to fund his mother's lifestyle. The money he claims to be investing is actually being funneled into her accounts." I stare at him in shock, my mouth hanging open. That can't be true. Theo wouldn't do that to me. The lawyer gives me a sympathetic look. "I'm afraid the evidence suggests otherwise. Your husband has been systematically draining your joint accounts for months." I feel like I've been punched in the gut. All this time, I thought Theo and I were working towards a common goal, a future together. But now I see that he's been lying to me, using me for my money. I think back to all the times he's dismissed my concerns about our finances, telling me not to worry, that he had everything under control. How could I have been so blind? I leave the lawyer's office in a daze, my mind reeling with the implications of what I've learned. When I get home, I find Theo and Lillian in the living room, sipping tea and chatting like old friends. "Marin, there you are," Theo says, his voice all false cheer. "I was just telling Mom about our plans for the weekend." I feel a surge of anger course through me. "What plans, Theo? The ones where you take more of my money to fund your mother's shopping sprees?" Theo's face goes white, his eyes widening in shock. "What are you talking about?" I throw the bank statements down on the coffee table. "I'm talking about how you've been lying to me, stealing from me, using my inheritance to pay for your mother's extravagant lifestyle." Lillian scoffs, rolling her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic, Marin. Theo is just being a good son, taking care of his family." I whirl on her, my eyes blazing. Taking care of his family? By stealing from his wife? By betraying my trust? Theo stands up, his hands held out in a placating gesture. "Marin, please let me explain." But I'm done listening to his excuses. "Explain what, Theo? How you've been using me all these years? How you never really loved me at all?" Theo's face hardens, his voice growing cold. "Don't be ridiculous. Of course I love you. But Lillian is my mother. I have to take care of her." I shake my head, tears streaming down my face. "No, Theo, you have to take care of your wife. You have to be honest with me, respect me. But you've done none of those things." I turn to leave, but Theo grabs my arm. "Marin, wait, we can work this out." I yank my arm away, my voice trembling with rage. "No, we can't. Not anymore. I won't be your doormat any longer. I won't let you and your mother control my life." I storm out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest. I know what I have to do now. I have to take back control of my life, my future. And I know just where to start. The next morning, I'm back in the lawyer's office, a plan forming in my mind. I've spent the night tossing and turning, my anger and hurt fueling my determination to make Theo and Lillian pay for what they've done. "I want to file for divorce," I tell the lawyer, my voice steady despite the butterflies in my stomach. "And I want to make sure Theo can't touch a penny of my inheritance." The lawyer nods, his expression serious. "Based on what you've told me, we have grounds for a strong case. Theo's financial infidelity is a clear violation of your prenuptial agreement." I feel a flicker of hope at his words. When Theo and I got married, I insisted on a prenup to protect my inheritance. At the time, he had laughed it off, telling me we would never need it. Now, I'm grateful for my foresight. "What about Lillian?" I ask, my jaw clenching at the thought of my mother-in-law. "Can we prove she was involved in the fraud?" The lawyer hesitates for a moment before answering. "It may be more difficult to implicate her directly, but we can certainly make a case for her being a beneficiary of Theo's actions. If we can show that she knew about the misappropriation of funds and did nothing to stop it, we may be able to hold her accountable as well." I nod, my mind racing with possibilities. I want to make sure she doesn't get a dime of my money. She's been living off of me for too long. "We'll do everything we can to ensure that doesn't happen," the lawyer assures me. "In the meantime, I recommend you start gathering any evidence you can find of Theo's financial misdeeds. Bank statements, receipts, anything that shows a pattern of misconduct." I leave the office with a newfound sense of purpose, my steps lighter than they've been in months. When I get home, I find Theo in the kitchen, his face drawn and haggard. "Where have you been?" he asks, his voice tight with accusation. "I've been calling you all morning." I shrug, my expression cool and composed. "I had some errands to run, not that it's any of your business." Theo's eyes narrow, his mouth twisting into a sneer. "Everything you do is my business, Marin. You're my wife." I laugh, the sound harsh and bitter. "Your wife? Is that what you call someone you lie to and steal from?" Theo takes a step towards me, his fists clenched at his sides. "I did what I had to do to take care of my family. My mother needed help, and I provided it. With my money," I spit back. "Without my knowledge or consent. That's not taking care of your family, Theo. That's betrayal." Theo's face reddens, his voice rising to a shout. "You're one to talk about betrayal. Running off to see a lawyer behind my back, plotting against me." "Plotting against you?" I echo, my own voice rising to match his. "You're the one who's been plotting, Theo. Plotting to use me, to drain me dry. Well, guess what? The jig is up. I know everything, and I'm not going to take it anymore." Theo takes a step back, his expression wary. "What are you saying, Marin?" I take a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. "I'm saying I want a divorce, Theo. I want you and your mother out of my life for good." Theo stares at me, his mouth hanging open in shock. "You can't be serious." I meet his gaze, my eyes hard and unyielding. "Oh, I'm serious, Theo. Dead serious, and I'm just getting started." The next few weeks are a blur of legal proceedings and emotional upheaval. Theo tries to contest the divorce, but the evidence against him is overwhelming. The bank statements, the receipts, the email trails, all of it paints a clear picture of his deceit and betrayal. Lillian, of course, takes Theo's side, painting me as a vindictive shrew out to destroy her precious son. She even has the audacity to show up at my office, demanding to speak with me. "How dare you do this to my boy?" she hisses, her eyes narrowed in fury. "After everything he's done for you, this is how you repay him?" I stare at her in disbelief, my anger rising to a boil. "Everything he's done for me? You mean like stealing my money and lying to my face? Like using me as his own personal ATM?" Lillian scoffs, waving a dismissive hand. "Oh, please. Theo was just taking care of his family like a good son should. If you were any kind of wife, you would understand that." I take a deep breath, trying to calm the rage swirling inside me. "Lillian, I am a good wife, but I'm not a doormat. I won't stand by and let you and Theo walk all over me anymore." Lillian's face twists into an ugly sneer. "You think you're so high and mighty, don't you? With your fancy job and your big inheritance. Well, let me tell you something, Missy. You're nothing without Theo. Nothing." I feel a cold smile spread across my face. "That's where you're wrong, Lillian. I'm everything without Theo, and I'm going to make sure the whole world knows it." Lillian's eyes widen in surprise, but before she can respond, I turn on my heel and walk away, my head held high. That evening, I sit down with the lawyer and make a plan. I've spent years keeping quiet about Theo's misdeeds, protecting his reputation for the sake of our marriage, but now I have no reason to hold back. "I want to expose him," I tell the lawyer, my voice trembling with emotion. "I want everyone to know what kind of man he really is." The lawyer nods, his expression grim. "We can leak the evidence to the press, to his colleagues, to anyone who will listen. But Marin, I have to warn you, this could get ugly. Theo and Lillian won't go down without a fight." I take a deep breath, my resolve hardening. "I know, but I'm ready for a fight. I'm done being a victim." The next day, the story breaks in the news. Investment broker accused of fraud. The headlines scream. Wife exposes years of financial abuse. The response is immediate and explosive. Theo's colleagues desert him in droves, his clients pulling their accounts and demanding answers. Even his own firm throws him under the bus, issuing a statement condemning his actions and distancing themselves from the scandal. Lillian, of course, is beside herself with rage. She shows up at my door, her face twisted in fury. "You vindictive bitch," she screams, her voice shrill and hysterical. "How could you do this to us? To your own family?" I stare at her, my expression cold and unyielding. "You stopped being my family the moment you betrayed me, Lillian, the moment you put your own selfish desires above my well-being." Lillian's face crumples, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Please, Marin, don't do this. We can work it out. We can find a way to fix this." I shake my head, my voice steady and calm. There is no fixing this, Lillian. You and Theo made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences. I close the door in her face, my heart racing with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but for the first time in years I feel free. Free from Theo's lies, free from Lillian's manipulations, free to finally live my life on my own terms. The fallout from the scandal is swift and merciless. Theo loses his job, his clients, his reputation. Overnight, he goes from a successful investment broker to a pariah, shunned by everyone who once admired him. Lillian, too, feels the sting of public disgrace. Her social circle turns their backs on her, canceling invitations and whispering behind her back. She becomes a ghost in her own community, a cautionary tale of what happens when you cross the wrong person. I watch it all unfold with a grim sense of satisfaction. After years of being under Theo and Lillian's thumb, it feels good to finally be the one in control. But even as I savor my victory, I know that my work is not yet done. I arrange a meeting with Lillian, determined to have one final confrontation. She arrives at the coffee shop looking haggard and worn, her once perfect hair and makeup now disheveled and unkempt. "What do you want, Marin?" she asks, her voice flat and defeated. "Haven't you done enough already?" I lean back in my chair, my expression calm and composed. "I just wanted to make sure you understand the full extent of what you and Theo have done, the lives you've ruined, the trust you've betrayed." Lillian's eyes flash with anger. "You act like you're so innocent in all of this, like you didn't benefit from Theo's success just as much as we did." I nod, acknowledging the truth in her words. "You're right, Lillian. I did benefit from Theo's success, but I never knew the true cost of that success. The lies, the deceit, the betrayal." Lillian looks away, her jaw clenching tight. "We did what we had to do to survive, to maintain our lifestyle." I lean forward, my voice low and intense. "But at what cost, Lillian? Your integrity, your self-respect, your relationship with your son?" Lillian's eyes fill with tears, her lower lip trembling. "Theo will never forgive me for this, for letting him down." I feel a flicker of sympathy for her, but I push it aside. "That's not my problem, Lillian. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences." I stand up to leave, but Lillian grabs my arm, her fingers digging into my skin. "Please, Marin, don't do this. Don't destroy us completely." I wrench my arm away, my voice cold and unyielding. "You destroyed yourselves, Lillian. I just shone a light on the truth." I walk away, my head held high. I know that my journey is not yet over, that there will be more obstacles and challenges to come. But for now, I feel a sense of peace and closure, knowing that I have taken back control of my life. The divorce is finalized a few months later, and I walk out of the courthouse a free woman. Theo and Lillian are left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives, their once enviable lifestyle, now nothing more than a distant memory. As for me, I focus on rebuilding my own life. I throw myself into my work, determined to succeed on my own terms. I surround myself with friends and family who love and support me, who appreciate me for who I am, not what I can do for them. And slowly but surely, I begin to heal. The pain and anger that once consumed me start to fade, replaced by a newfound sense of strength and resilience. I know that I will never forget what Theo and Lillian did to me, but I also know that I will not let it define me. I am more than just a victim of their lies and betrayal. I am a survivor, a fighter, a woman who knows her own worth and will never again settle for less than she deserves. And that, in the end, is the sweetest revenge of all. Life after the divorce is a strange and unfamiliar landscape. For so long, my identity was tied up in being Theo's wife, in playing the role of the dutiful spouse and daughter-in-law. Now I find myself adrift, unsure of who I am or what I want. But even as I struggle to find my footing, I take solace in the fact that Theo and Lillian are struggling even more. Everywhere they go, they are met with whispers and stares, with people who once fawned over them, now turning their backs in disgust. I hear through the grapevine that Theo has been blacklisted from every major investment firm in the city, his once sterling reputation now forever tarnished. Lillian, too, has become a social pariah, shunned by the very people she once looked down upon. Part of me feels a twisted sense of satisfaction at their downfall. After all the pain and betrayal they put me through, it feels like justice to see them finally facing the consequences of their actions. but another part of me knows that revenge is a hollow victory. It may feel good in the moment, but it doesn't change what happened. It doesn't erase the years of lies and deceit, the trust that was so brutally shattered. And so I focus on moving forward. I throw myself into my work, taking on new projects and challenges that push me out of my comfort zone. I start seeing a therapist, working through the trauma and pain of my failed marriage. Slowly but surely, I begin to rebuild my life. I make new friends, people who value me for who I am, not what I can do for them. I take up new hobbies, exploring parts of myself that I never had the chance to before, and as I do, I start to realize that my marriage to Theo was not the end of my story. It was just one chapter, a painful and difficult one, but one that I survived. And now, I have the chance to write a new chapter, one filled with hope and possibility. One day, I run into Lillian at the grocery store. She looks older than I remember, her face lined with worry and regret. For a moment, we just stare at each other, unsure of what to say. Finally, Lillian breaks the silence. "Marin, I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. What Theo and I did to you was unforgivable." I nod, my expression guarded. "You're right, Lillian. It was unforgivable." Lillian takes a deep breath, her eyes filling with tears. "I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that." I feel a flicker of something in my chest. Not quite forgiveness, but perhaps a glimmer of understanding. "Thank you, Lillian. I appreciate you saying that." We stand there for a moment longer, two women whose lives were once so intertwined, now nothing more than strangers. And then, without another word, we go our separate ways. As I walk out of the store, I feel a sense of lightness, as if a weight has been lifted from my shoulders. I know that I will never forget what Theo and Lillian did to me, but I also know that I no longer need to carry the burden of their betrayal. I am not the same woman I was when I married Theo, and I never will be again. But that's okay, because the woman I am now is stronger, wiser, and more resilient than I ever thought possible. I am rebuilding not just my life, but my very soul, and with each passing day, I am one step closer to the person I was always meant to be. It's not an easy journey, but it's one that I am finally ready to take. And as I walk out into the bright sunlight, I feel a sense of hope and possibility that I haven't felt in years. The future is wide open, and for the first time in a long time, I am excited to see where it will take me.